So this is kind of an energy update, I suppose, because it was inspired by the current series of events that we're all going through. And I have been pondering, which is what I always do, here to analyze, unlock, alchemically decode the human experience and feed it back to you, Gospel of Marie. So this is a little bit of an energy update in the way that it's going to give you a map and compass directive, if it resonates, on the processes that we've been going through last year to where we are now. We are significantly, definitely, undeniably so in the New Earth timeline. We can all feel it, even though there's a lot of stuff going on right now. It definitely is not the same as it was last year. We can feel that we are being guided to step into a brand new way of being. So what we're doing right now is kind of like letting go of the old belief systems, because brand new ones are like, whoa, and we can feel that. That's what that energy is that we can feel, because that's the most aligned way for us individually to be living out our human experience as a starseed incarnate, right? So we can feel that. But there's still a little bit of chaos and stuff going on as these old belief systems leave our space and the new ones are kind of like take their place, I suppose. So this is a little bit of an energy update in the fact that I keep using the word transition. Now, transition is, we know it's shifting from one place to another. That's alchemy. That's magic, if you want to look at it like that. But like transition, it also means death as well. In a good way. We need to die, and we need to let the old stuff die and step into the new, because what's happening with a lot of us, and I'm going to start here because I've got several points, more than my 3 points today, guys, but I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4. I got about 5 today to give you the 5 points. If it's 5, I don't know. But anyway, we've got some points to help you move through this process, and understanding it a little bit better is going to help you navigate it better. But we are running like an MS-DOS program on an Apple Mac, right? That's what I always refer to when we keep dragging old ideas into the new and wondering why we're tired, wondering why it's not vibing, because the ideas that we had in 2024 and prior are like null and void now, because they were thought of in a different vibration. They came to you when you were a different being, you were a different person. They came to you when you were at a different frequency. Now we're in 2025. It's a case of like, oh, okay, those ideas may be indeed upgraded, or they may have completely fallen flat on their face. If that's what you've experienced, do not take that as a failure. Not at all. It's an upgrade, right? So there's lots of things going on. But I think the best point of call right now is just to let go and literally let Father God take the wheel, because they know what's going on. And I've said it time and time again. This is the era of the divine feminine, and we don't really know what's going on or where we're going or whatever. Our only purpose is here to enjoy and receive our divine blessings, because we think it. If you thunk it, it's out there. Get on with your life. Receive it. Do you know what I'm saying? So we're not pushing an elephant up a hill any longer, and that is what we're getting used to, right? Have any of you done any training before? I was an exercise specialist for 20 years, as you probably know, because I speak about it all the time. And I used to train sports people for their competitions and things like that. And I used to be a really mean trainer. You know what I'm like with Sekhmet now. I mean, God, can you imagine me on the other side of your training regime on a morning? I wasn't really like that much. But we got the results. Now, I used to train my clients with a tractor tire behind them, or make them like sprint up really, really high hills like that. And it used to be high intensity, short duration, much like our spiritual path actually right at the moment. And what I used to do is I would have them run with resistance. And sometimes I'd have bands around them and I make them drag me. In fact, I used to do it when I was very, very pregnant, because I never slowed down for anything. I remember being like 8 months pregnant and being dragged along by this big sports guy who was a BMX rider. And like, yeah, that was the kind of thing I did. As soon as I took the band off and I said, right, okay, now do your sprints, he would nearly face plant, because he was so used to having that resistance behind him that's how we increase speed. We run against resistance and run against adversity. Sound familiar? And we go at it. And then all of a sudden what you do is you take the resistance out. So for example, make them run on a flat plane, or take the tractor tire off, or don't put a band around them and just let them run. Their speed and capacity is effortless and easeful and quite shocking to their body when I make them run, because they're not used to not having that dead weight behind them, right? You're getting, oh, look at that, right? right? So love that. So that's what I'm saying. So this is like kind of like very, very resonant of what we're going through right now. We have indeed let the tractor tire go. So we don't need to effort so hard. But because we're so used to efforting, because that's how we got things done before, now all of a sudden it's weird. And we're a bit bewildered, and we're kind of like, I'm so used to suffering and I'm so used to pushing hard. This is a bit weird. I don't know how to deal with all of this. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like coming out of an abusive relationship and then having a divine partner where you're like, you're so nice and lovely. You buy me flowers. What are you doing? Do you know what I mean? So it's very much like that, right? We've come into 2025 and it's all a bit back to front and upside down. So expect redirections to come, because now that density and the way you were going about it is not needed anymore. And it's not actually, just switch my phone off. It's not actually down to you to do the hard work anymore either. So there is a little bit of a changing of the guard going, meaning you're letting go of old belief systems, moving into new ones. So with that being said, let me break down the process of what we've been going through. So now, point number 1, dark night of the soul, okay? You've written it down. I've got 3 pages here, guys, right? Dark night of the soul phase, okay? In the shadow, living the nightmare, invested in false stories, okay? That's the dark night of the soul. A tenacity to keep going. It's like a honing device, though, that basically keeps you going. Because when you're in a dark night of the soul, let's rewind to last year, prior. In fact, last year was more about transformation. And a lot of people said it was like Dark Night of the Soul. I disagree. Transformation is hard. It's tough. In all my videos, if you look back last year, I'm talking about the moth coming out of the chrysalis. It's exhausting. A little chickie coming out of an egg. It takes so much power and energy and all of the things for them to be born. Same as a baby. It's got to squash itself down there. It's exhausting for that tiny little being, right? So that's what we went through last year. That wasn't a Dark Night of the Soul, though, in my eyes, right? For some of you, maybe, but not me. So now, like, with the dark night of the soul, I mean, let's go back to prior to 2024, 23, 22, the rest of it. Think about how you felt. I know I was just in the trenches and in the sludge. I often ask myself, why didn't you just book out and leave the planet and go back to star paradise? Do you know what I mean? I kept on going and I was very invested in the story. I didn't know any truth, any real truth beyond that. My truth was my darkness. My truth was my suffering. And I just couldn't get out of it. But something inside of me kept me going. And that's the honing device. That's the higher self. That's the ancient one inside of you going, we've got this. Otherwise, it's craziness, isn't it? Otherwise, why would we have kept on going? So there was no light at the end of the tunnel, no light behind us, but we kept on going. Now I'm going to bring the analogy or the myth. Let's bring the myth of the lemmings. Some of you might know about this. So like the myth of the lemmings is where one jumps up, they actually jump to their death because one goes and they all follow. So there's 2 breakdowns of this. Like this is the people that are sleeping, the ones that follow vaccinations, they invest in the fear, whatever. If it's a fear-based decision, that would be a lemming. They're just going to follow the crowds and jump to their death. Not a good thing, but it will always lead to awakening. So that's a good thing. So then there's the other version of the lemmings where we all rush to our death, where we do it willingly. We're like the lemmings. We're like, yay, let's die because we know what's on the other side because our soul knows, right? So that is a definite outcome of rebirth. So either way, whether you're asleep and you fell over the edge because you're following the crowd, or whether you're awake and you're just going to go there anyway because you're not sticking here for this shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like collective awakened, collective not awakened, outcome awakening, if you know what I mean. So that's the dark night of the soul phase, right? So that's where I believe that we have been, okay? Second phase number 2, okay? Bad dysfunctional relationship, you know? So this is okay, what I mean by that is you basically stop believing in it. And what I mean by that is like when you're in a bad dysfunctional relationship, you stick it like think about a relationship that you've been in, friendship or something like that. Something goes down. Well, I didn't like the way that they treat me there. Okay, fine, I'll suck it up, let it go, whatever. And then it happens again and again and again to the point where you're actually at capacity and then the writing's on the wall and you're like, well, shit, I can't stay here. But you end up staying there anyway. But there's that moment where the fingers click and you're like, this is a bad relationship and I'm not being honored here at all. And it tips the scales, right? And then what happens is what kept you there to stay there, you keep investing trust, you keep investing promise and hope this relationship will correct itself. It doesn't. It gets worse and worse, but you still keep finding excuses to stay. And then eventually you get to the point where you're like, I can't. I just can't stay. I just can't stay here. And then all of a sudden in that moment, your belief in that relationship that's going to be anything different, it just goes. Finger click moment, right? So you start to split the two worlds when that happens. That's our connection that's what happens. So that was our second phase. In the dark night of the soul, believing in the story, going, well, there's no other option. I've got this or nothing. Then we start to actually stay in this dysfunctional relationship. Something happens. And then there's a little glimmer of hope, glimmer of the divine. Well, hang on a minute. I think this might be illusion. I think there might be something else. And then that's how it starts to split. I call this the bipolar phase. Okay, so the bipolar phase is a sacred yes and a sacred no. I'm going to stay, but I hate it. I don't want to be here, but I'm going to stay. You know what I mean? I love it, but I hate it on a different day. Do you know what I mean? So there's that bipolar phase of just complete confusion, but you can't deny the writing on the wall. It's right there. So truth starts to seep in. So that's when you stop believing. That's when the wall starts to crumble, which is a beautiful thing. I turn my page. Next stage, okay? Pushed to the brink to surrender. This is now known as the death phase. Maybe we go back to the lemurs, jumping off. It's death. Death is great. We resist it. When we do it, we're like, oh, I didn't do that before. Do you know what I mean? So this is the death phase. This stimulates the ice cube melting theory. And what I mean by this is the belief systems now start to melt away. Slowly but surely, it just starts to melt. You can't stop it. It's a slow burn, as it were, but it's happening. The wheels are in motion, right? So as these belief systems melt away, the pain that you feel in your body, okay, let me break down an experience of what it feels like. This happened for me over the times of Christmas into New Year, but mostly Christmas. Have you had those days where you're just like, oh my God, my energy's funky. I don't feel very well. I feel like a bag of shit. I don't feel inspired to do anything. I'm scared of my cat. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you're just like, oh my God, this is just awful on so many levels. And you just feel in absolute darkness, another dimension. You can't get out of it. Okay. So in a way, you are in a dark night of the soul, but not really, because you know that that's not the truth, but you live in it. Okay. This is the difference. This is very important. You're living that energy of just darkness. But prior to that, a year or so ago, you were invested in it and you believed in it. This time you don't, but you're in it regardless. Okay? That is what I feel the transition of Christmas to New Year was all about. And it's still happening now. Do you get those days where you can be in it for a week? You can be in it like all of a sudden, like 4 days or even longer. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're literally out of breath because you feel so good because it's just lifted. So what did you do differently, or what did you consciously do that shifted that energy? I'm telling you now, you have no idea, because it's a subconscious thing. And I went through the houses with this and I was like, what conversation did my subconscious self have to shift me out of that energy? Because it was flipping intense, right? How can I wake up today and just feel so light and happy and blissful, like I'm out of breath with it? It's like, what happened? And then I was like, oh, and I got this huge download and channel. And it was like, that is what it feels like when the body is purging, burning off, melting away belief systems that don't serve. Now, when you have a belief system, it is ingrained, tattooed into your absolute being. It's in your cells. It's in your muscles, it's in your physical body all the way through. You've embodied that belief system because you've lived by that belief system / reality, because belief systems bring reality, for so long, right? So that's what happens. For you to purge a belief system, you don't just wake up and go, well, I'm going to think something else. You have to purge it out of your being. And then obviously if that's happening, you have to experience it in your reality, because it's the belief system that's giving you that very, very dark experience for a week, 4 days, 2 weeks, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden it burns away like a fever, actually. Boom, you wake up and you're like, oh, feels so much better. What happened there? All of a sudden you see the light. All of a sudden you're inspired. All of a sudden you're back on your mission again, on your A game, doing different things, right? Because a belief system has melted, but a new one has been reinstated, right? Very much a subconscious thing, because when we're in it, right? So that's what I think about that. So knowing that in that phase, all of a sudden, belief goes into a depth of knowing and you start to land into faith, right? The resistance phase, spiritual hemorrhoids I've put here. And that's another yes and no stage. Like the spiritual bipolar, this is actually a little bit more intense, because it's basically spiritual hemorrhoids. You're trying to like go forward, but it's trying to suck you in. So it's basically, it's a push and pull scenario. Do you know what I mean? But then you have to decide, okay? So in that moment where it all kind of like is a bit funky, what's actually happening on the backstory, on the down low in your subconscious, is your inner being, your ancient one, your higher self is going, no, we're not believing that. This is done. This is done. And you have a big business meeting on around a board table, and you have a good chat to all your selves and all of your stuff going on. And you're like, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're done. Do you know what I mean? And the higher self will always lead, will always win, right? So now that is where the final collapse comes in, because you finally go, yeah, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. This has actually brought me zero outcome of anything. You lose your belief system in the relationship. No, I'm not doing this. Thanks very much. There's got to be something else. And then that's when you're all in, wake up, and you're like, whoo, belief systems melted away. New belief system, positive ones reinstated because they've always been there. They've just been dormant. And away you go. As Sekhmet says, it's, what did she say? Look at my notes here. My desk is full of bloody notes and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, she said, it's not about the... Hold that. Oh, there was nothing to heal, only to reveal. That's so good. I really didn't think I was going to remember that point here. But it says here on the channel, there was nothing to heal, only to reveal. Right? So this is the biggest concept that we need to let go of, that we think that we're broken. We're not broken. In fact, we do need to go through healing. I do agree with that. We need to heal because we need to heal the thoughts and la. But the truth of it, the absolute truth of it, is that we were never broken. And the biggest thing that hinders us is thinking we are broken. So we're actually fine. Underneath our blueprint, everything's tickety-boo, right? So that's that. So now the final stage, you'll like this one, the Great Migration. So the Great Migration, once you know, you cannot unknow. So once you're there, you can't go back. Once it's known, it's known. To every no, there is a yes. This is the Hermetic principle of gender. It's the opposites. It's the opposing forces, right? Every door you close, another one opens. If you say no to something, you're automatically saying yes to something else, right? If you are lying something into dormancy, you are activating something else, just in the pure action of going, right, I'm not doing that. Because it's like a seesaw, something naturally happens, right? So when you look at the Great Migration, when you say no to that, everything comes online. So this is like massive. So you've said no to the old belief systems, and now the new ones are making themselves shown, which was also signed off on when you were in spirit before you came. Now they can actually get action based. They're like, oh, finally you've arrived. Can we get busy, please? You know, so now I'm asking you, and I'm going to do more work on this in more videos, right? What are your new belief systems? This warrants a new video on its own, because me and my husband were sat there today and we were like, it's all well and good letting go and you know, clearing that and clearing this. The confusion and the bewilderment being in this new timeline now is like, yeah, so you've let all that go. We need to establish and understand and recognize and acknowledge what has been revealed. What are your new belief systems that you're not quite aware or brought fully into your consciousness as to how you're going to live in the new timeline? It could be that you're going to leave your job. It could be that you're now going to be more creative on creative habit pursuits rather than just being stuck in the grind. There's a new belief system of, like, you know, letting go of negative relationships that do not serve your being or support your energy field. I don't know. You know what I'm going with this, but I want you to sit with this after this video and really start to establish how you feel in this new timeline. And this will probably play out for the whole of 2025, to be honest, and how fun and how magical and innocent and playful it is to find out what these new belief systems are, because it doesn't matter. There's no urgency on this because they are what they are. They're already here. So you don't need to know about them. You're already living by them right now. But this is just a human aspect consciousness thing of just, it might help you a little bit to go, okay, well, we've cleared all of that. What am I looking like? What am I doing here? And you know what? This might actually look like, you know, a bit of a wish list. Maybe it's journal time. Maybe you're like actually sat here going, okay, well, I'm going to, wistfully kind of like find out about all of this. I'm going to go on a retreat. I'm going to go on a bit of a holiday, or I'm just going to move from my hood. Basically, this is another video as well, which I'm working on. Change, massive change in your physical life. Go to the coffee shop a different route, right? If you went left, go right, okay? If you go to gym in the morning, go in the afternoon. All of these very easy things create massive change in your life. It doesn't matter whether it's the thing that you need to change, because that might not be available to you right now, but Spirit doesn't look at that. Spirit just looks as change in frequency. So if you've been doing humdrum, the same thing, the same conversation, being a victim mode or whatever, oh, I'm going to money, I'm going to this or whatever, you can't do that anymore because the frequency is the same. That's your contribution to the universe. So if you do something super simple like start hiking or take up a stretching class because you've never done that before, or whatever, or just walk to the shops in a different way, drive to work a different way. All of these stimulate frequency and the universe sees the change in energy. Just something like that is enough to stimulate the bigger stuff into change. Trust me, I know I've done it. Okay, so this is now all about opening to receive. So I'm going to leave that there because there's so many more points I want to speak about, but I thought this video was really important to share with you and see if you resonate with the stages that I've shared with you, you know? So on more exciting things, okay, I haven't officially announced it, but it will be coming out on the newsletter and everything like that. And just so you know, the newsletter, which I'm starting to get kind of quite committed to now, all of my discounts and any offerings I might give will all be found on the newsletter, and you quote a code and you get a discount, but you've got to be on the newsletter to do it. So that's all going to be over there. Also to share with you now, Avalon, Tablets of Light 2025, 5th to the 15th of August. This is a sisterhood movement. The boys, I'm going to be Grail Nights. I'm going to be doing something special for you in Avalon, so watch this space. But right now, this is a sisterhood gathering, and it's from the 5th to the 15th, encompassing, honoring, anchoring into the Lionsgate portal, very much connecting with the Great Sphinx. It's a whole thing. So it's Avalonian energies and the Egypt frequencies coming together. In fact, it's very, very laid, this gathering, and it's very, very sacred, and it's going to be very potent because it's Lionsgate. Now, of course, we have the Tablets of Light tour. We have 2 this year. We have May, okay, which is still going ahead. So May, 9th to the 19th of May. Obviously, I just said that. And that is an initiation experience, like massively to do with Egypt. I've spoken about it at length, loads of videos on the channel for you to go and deep dive into. But what I'm also excited as well is hasn't been officially released, but there will be a Sekhmet pilgrimage in November, and that is going to be specifically related to the goddess. Okay, just her. I know we're all Sekhmet rah, and it's a very uniquely, divinely designed one that me and Walida put together in honor of the goddess. So if that's kind of like zinging your sacred fires, I'll be officially announcing that in the coming days, and you'll know more about that. But anyway, on that note, peace and love, y'all. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Like and subscribe if you're digging the vibe. I always like to say that then because it rhymes. And I'll see you on the next vid. Thanks, peeps. Love y'all.